Hello indie game fan, more updates and releases of interest includes Vampire Survivors Local Co-op, one that adds a much requested feature to the Bullet Heaven roguelite, which is pretty self-explanatory, but I do like how they balance things since you have a fewer number of slots for upgrades and weapons, meaning that you do really need to work together. On a more technical level, they have fully shifted the game onto a new engine, which is supposed to enable them to add more stuff to the game, so it is 2023 and I'm still curious about this title. It's a real shame that this next title kind of released out of nowhere without hype or fanfare, since you know me, the pixel art of Frogatto and Friends looks absolutely fantastic, so I thought it would have done better than a measly one Steam review. This is an adventure platformer starring the titular frog, where a seemingly innocuous errand turns into an epic quest to protect your home from an invading army. Our hero runs and jumps and even solos enemies, having light combat elements, and is said to have a non-linear world with exploration and backtracking, looking very charming and seems like a tremendous waste for this to go under the radar. This video is brought to you by Pathfinder Gallowspire Survivors, a Bullet Heaven action roguelite developed by Beecarbonize Studios in partnership with Paizo, who are the creators of the Pathfinder IP, which is releasing today on the 14th of September. It is set in the iconic location of Gallowspire, a tower of darkness in the Pathfinder universe, where you are once again slaying hordes of enemies and battling bosses on your way to seal away the ancient king of undeath. The interesting spin on this subgenre is that it has a companion system in which you can take one of the other heroes along with you, where progression does carry over. For example, you can get the wizard to level 4 and then choose him as your companion, who will be more powerful as compared to the level 1 version. There's actually lore and story to unlock in this game, as well as scripted boss fights, which are not just a regular enemy with a larger model and more HP, along with a variety of other integrations from tabletop RPGs like a die roll for the talent tree, making this quite the curiosity, so if interested, you can pick it up on Steam via the link in the description below, where it's at a cost of $6.99 with a 20% launch discount. This next title being free to play has garnered quite a bit of attention since Beecarbonize is a strategy game with climate change as your opponent about having to save the planet, while having to manage carbon emissions, and is pretty well crafted without microtransactions, so why not give this a go. The defense roguelite is another growing subgenre in which you are largely immobile in the center of the screen and are either auto-firing or controlling guns and turrets, which is exactly the case here with Paper Planet. In theory, the round thing at the center is a planet, and you're fending off waves of enemies in an almost Bullet Heaven-like fashion, and thus release dopamine in a similar way. The Flash game inspired art style looks great as well, and somehow even has co-op support for up to 4 players, making this another hidden gem. Horror games are not usually my thing, so you can see why I skipped over Unsorted Horror, which released at the beginning of last month, but if you're a fan, this anthology of 5 short first-person horror games seems neat and looks well made. There have been quite a number of golf and mini-golf games over the years, some more innovative than others, so let me know if you would like a list of the best, and where there's something to golf it, since this has a stunning 18,000 Steam reviews, which translates to a whole bunch of sales. The multiplayer aspect of this title seems to be the primary draw, since the Steam reviews are all about screaming at your friends, looking like a great golf game. There's also a level editor and Steam Workshop support, with what I believe is a fairly active community, so that extends the life of this game. I had to do a double take when I saw Vectorio pop up on the list of new releases, since I swear that this game was out already, and lo and behold, it was, kind of, and is now renamed as Vectorio Classic, with a key differentiator being that the original was free and this is paid. Apparently the developer had to remake the game from the ground up, due to certain legacy decisions that was made for the first game, taking the lessons learned from making the original version to realize the vision that he has for this game, and has expanded and added systems and mechanics that were previously not there, but still retaining the core gameplay loop. This is a minimalist base building tower defense game in the vein of something like Mindustry and seems good, so if curious, do give it a look. Ever so often, there's a first-person horror game that seemingly blows up out of nowhere, and I don't quite understand why, and that is exactly the case here with Labyrinthine, a co-op horror puzzle game where you play with friends. In theory, it should make the monsters less scary and it's all about screwing around, attempting to solve the puzzles while goofing off with your friends, and that is exactly the case here, despite the rather gross-looking monsters in the dark. This occupies the same space as something like Phasmophobia, which is still insanely popular as far as I can tell, but if you're sick of spirits, this is one to check out. An anime roguelite deck builder which released out of early access is Theseus Protocol, one that gets your attention due to its vibrant art style and has its share of strategic deck building fun. It is set in a cyberpunk dystopian city with your goal of uncovering the truth and history of the location, having to battle against a variety of enemies in order to do so. The non-linear narrative takes a bit of work to put together, and has the expected roguelite meta-progression systems of advancing just a little bit further after every run, and with 3 playable characters does have variety. Common complaints includes poor English translation and balancing that feels off, hence the mixed reviews, so unless you're a super fan of the genre, maybe give this one a miss. Let's kick off the top 5 with a guidebook of Babel, a neat looking adventure game about the theme of death, the afterlife, resurrection, and the butterfly effect. You are on board a ship named Babel after your death, in which the crew on board are supposed to erase your memories before launching you into the afterlife, but where you are now on the quest to help the other trapped characters overcome their difficulties. This is an adventure game which includes speaking to characters, getting items, and observing events, but with the use of a pen, you're able to rewrite how it unfolds and how things change from there. As such, you do need to figure out the right sequence of actions, and the time travel aspect does give me a little bit of a sexy brutale vibe, so if you love games like this, do give it a go. Now this title is one of the weirder entries that I have seen, since at its core, Orbo's Odyssey is a 3D platformer that seems to have a gotta go fast design mentality, where a protagonist is barreling across distances and launching himself into enemies. The comedic surrealist vibe is intentional, but might look kind of jank to some people, where this game comes to us from the appropriately named Fever Dream Softworks and in some ways does remind me of Pizza Tower.
The Wretch was defeated. Their dominion contested. They had no choice but to bury themselves in the ground with the pitiful remains of their army.
A neat looking game is The Wretch's Den, a pixel art roguelite base builder title that is essentially roguelite Dungeon Keeper, where you need to build and expand your base with minions while fending off oncoming heroes who want to kill said wretch, which is the Minotaur-like creature. It's a little bit cryptic in the lack of explanation of systems, which is a complaint, but there have been a distinct lack of Dungeon Keeper likes, so this might be up your alley.
Would come for the glory of slaying the wretch. You will have to set up defenses, hire more monsters, and grow your little underworld society. Ha! Let the heroes come! See who comes back from the wretch's den!
Now this next release is interesting and again came out of nowhere, since Hammerwatch Anniversary Edition is pretty much a full remake of the original Hammerwatch from 2013, 10 years after the fact, and they just kind of threw it out there along with Hammerwatch 2 last month, which didn't help this game, and while the sequel sits at mixed reviews, it has more than 1,000 of them, which indicates its popularity. Interestingly, they have changed how this game plays and controls, such as removing auto-attack and changing how the movement works, but also expanded the game with a new campaign, updated graphics, cosmetic character customization, and more. So depending on how much you loved the original, this edition might not be for you, but for everyone else, it's a good action-adventure RPG. Double surprise here, since this update actually dropped way back in May, but only recently came to my attention, which brought the indie Bloodborne-like Souls-like RPG Stencil to version 2.0. It's a weird and interesting indie Souls-like, with the update adding new items, reworking things like the map, enemy AI, parrying mechanics and balance, along with switching the engine from Unreal 4 to 5, so if you're at all curious about Souls-likes, I do think that this is worth a look, and you can find more of such games in this video.